Most people over 50 are doing the wrong things and doing them faithfully every single day. You've been told that your genes sealed your fate, that getting old means falling apart, that the body you have at 60 is the body you're stuck with. Every one of those ideas is wrong. And what's worse, the system that keeps telling you those things has no interest in correcting them, because a sick patient is a paying patient. Subscribe to Dr. Waterling and hit like right now. I'm building this channel toward 1,000 subscribers, and every person who joins is one more person who gets real information instead of profitable nonsense. They will not say this at your next appointment. There's no money in keeping you healthy. I'm saying it anyway. Now let's get into it. Here's a question I hear constantly in the office. Doctor, my mother died at 60, my grandmother at 58. What's the point? I've got bad genes. I hear some version of this almost every week, and every single time I want to give the same answer. Genes are not a verdict. Genes are the cards you were dealt. How you play them, that's an entirely different story. There was a massive study conducted in Denmark following identical twins for decades. Identical twins share 100% of their DNA. That's as close to a natural experiment as science can get. The result? Genetics accounts for roughly 20 to 25% of how long you live, 30% at most. Everything else, your habits, your food, your sleep, your stress levels, your relationships, your environment, that's the other 70 to 80%. And all of it is under your control, starting right now. Think of it this way. Imagine two apartments. One is brand new, solid walls, good foundation. The other is old, cracked, with a leaking roof. Different starting points, no question. But if the person in the new apartment ignores it, never repairs a thing, never opens a window, floods the neighbors, in 10 years, it's a wreck. And if the person in the old apartment pays attention, patches things up, takes care, that apartment lasts another 50 years. That's genetics. Your starting point matters less than what you do with it every single day. I watched this play out with a patient of mine, a 55-year-old man whose father had died of a heart attack at 52. He came in convinced he had 3 years left. Not joking, genuinely terrified. We didn't make dramatic changes overnight. We started small. He went from a pack of cigarettes down to 5 a day, then 3, then 0. He started walking, not to a gym, just to the store and back. He swapped the processed deli meat at dinner for fish twice a week. 1 year later, cholesterol down by 1.5 points, blood pressure stable, and for the first time in 10 years, he told me he was sleeping through the night. That's not genetics at work. That's a man taking his 70% seriously. I do want to be honest about what genetics actually means in practice. There are real hereditary tendencies toward type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and certain cancers. If those run in your family, that's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to pay slightly more attention, start monitoring slightly earlier, and get checked slightly more often. I call it the traffic light model. If serious illness runs in your family, you're on yellow. You're not stopped, you're being careful. Yellow means attention, not paralysis. Practically speaking, if diabetes runs in your family, check your fasting blood sugar and your glycated hemoglobin. That's a 3-month average of your blood sugar levels every year after 40. Don't wait until you feel something. If your family history includes heart attacks or strokes, keep an eye on blood pressure, cholesterol, and triglycerides. If certain cancers appear in your family tree, ask your doctor whether you need an individualized screening schedule rather than the standard one-size-fits-all approach. Now here's a myth I want to demolish because it has fooled generations of people. Many of my patients believe that disease runs in the family because of blood, because of DNA passed down through the generations. And sometimes that's true, but far more often what looks like inherited disease is actually inherited behavior. Not genes, habits. 3 generations of frying everything in lard, eating pickles by the jarful, and treating physical activity as something only idle people do, of course everyone ends up with high blood pressure. That's not a genetic curse. That's a recipe card passed down alongside the cooking oil. I had a 61-year-old woman in my office. Type 2 diabetes, mother had it, aunt had it, older brother had it. I asked what she ate for lunch. Pasta, bread, dried fruit compote with 5 spoonfuls of sugar. That's how my mother always made it, she told me, and her mother had diabetes and she had diabetes. We didn't start with medication, we started with the plate. Replaced white bread with whole grain and only on some days. Switched to pasta made from durum wheat, a harder variety of wheat that raises blood sugar more slowly. Cut the portion in half. Made the compote without sugar with a cinnamon stick and a slice of lemon instead. Added more vegetables, more protein, a small handful of nuts as a snack. 4 months later, her glycated hemoglobin dropped from 8.2 to 6.7. 4 months, no starvation, no suffering, just a different plate. So here's your first practical action. Take a piece of paper, right now or after this video, and write down what your closest relatives died of, or what they were diagnosed with. Your mother, your father, your grandparents. No medical terminology required. Dad had a heart attack at 63. Grandmother had diabetes. That is your genetic map. Bring it to your next doctor's appointment and ask for an individualized screening plan, not the generic checklist everyone over 50 gets, but a plan built around your actual family history. And one more thought before we move on. When people say to me, "Doctor, I don't care how long I live, I just don't want to suffer," I say, let's do both. Let's make it longer and make it better at the same time. That's not a fantasy. That's exactly what people in the so-called blue zones are doing. Places on Earth where the highest concentrations of people live past 100. Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Ikaria in Greece. The people there aren't lying in beds at 90. They're walking, cooking, gardening, talking, laughing. And what do they have in common? Not some rare genetic advantage, a collection of simple daily habits. The same habits we're going to talk about right now. Let's talk about food, and I'll be direct. The amount of dangerous, contradictory nonsense the internet serves up on this topic is staggering. One site tells you to cut out all meat. The next tells you meat is the only thing worth eating and carbohydrates are poison. A third tells you to drink a glass of water with lemon and baking soda every morning and cancer won't come near you. And meanwhile, my patient, 60 years old, genuinely trying, sits there confused, scared, and not knowing what to put on his plate. Let me clear it up. There is no single magic food that will extend your life. Not garlic, not turmeric, not buckwheat, not quinoa, not goji berries. All of these superfoods are marketing. Expensive, attractively packaged marketing. What extends your life is not one product. What extends your life is a pattern of eating. What you put in your body every day, month after month, year after year, that is what shapes your health. One day of grilled ribs won't hurt you. 20 years of processed deli meat for breakfast every morning is a different story entirely. So what does the science actually say about eating after 50? Let's go through it specifically. First, protein. This is the one most people overlook completely. After the age of 50, the body starts losing muscle mass. The medical term is sarcopenia. Don't worry about remembering that word, just remember the effect. Every year, your muscles get a little smaller and a little weaker. If you do nothing about it, by the age of 70, you can lose up to 30% of your muscle mass. And muscle isn't just about how you look. Muscle is your structural support system. It holds your spine in place, protects your joints, gets you up off a chair, keeps you balanced, keeps you from falling on ice in winter. Muscle is made from protein, and most people over 50 are eating dangerously little of it. Porridge for breakfast, soup for lunch, potatoes and salad for dinner. Where is the protein? It's nowhere. Here's what to do. Simple rule. Every meal should include protein. Morning, eggs or cottage cheese. Midday, a piece of fish or chicken. Evening, legumes, cheese, a small portion of meat. The portion doesn't need to be enormous. A serving of protein is roughly the size of your palm. That's it. 3 times a day. Now let me knock down a myth I hear constantly. Meat is harmful after 60. That is nonsense. Where did it come from? From popular magazines that pulled one study about processed meat completely out of context. Processed meat, sausage, hot dogs, bacon, smoked meats, yes, those are worth limiting. But regular meat, beef, chicken, turkey, rabbit, that's an excellent source of protein, iron, and vitamin B12, especially when you boil it, braise it, or roast it rather than frying it in oil until it's black at the edges. I had a patient, a 67-year-old retired engineer, came in exhausted and pale, barely able to climb a flight of stairs. 3 years earlier, he had read that meat was poison. Cut it out entirely. Switched to grains, vegetables, fruits. I looked at his labs. Hemoglobin 103. That means anemia, not enough red blood cells to carry oxygen properly. Ferritin at the lower boundary of normal. Ferritin is the protein that stores iron in the body. Vitamin B12 below normal range. His body was starving, not from lack of food, from lack of the right food. We brought meat back gradually, not every day, alternating with fish. 3 months later, completely different person. Color in his face, energy, mood, everything shifted. Second, vegetables. I know, you've heard this before, but hear me out, because most people are doing it wrong. When I say eat vegetables, most of my patients immediately picture punishment. Raw carrot sticks, flavorless cucumber, salad with no dressing. Forget that image. Vegetables should taste good. Braised cabbage with carrot and onion, roasted zucchini with garlic, boiled beets sliced thin with a spoonful of unrefined oil and a pinch of salt, a thick, rich vegetable soup with fresh herbs. These are not deprivation foods. These are real food. Why do vegetables matter so much? 2 things: fiber and antioxidants. Fiber. Think of it as a scrub brush for your digestive tract. It sweeps out excess cholesterol, toxins, and waste products and moves them out of your body. Without enough fiber, the gut slows down, things stagnate, and the whole system suffers. Your skin, your immunity, your mood, even your sleep. Antioxidants are compounds that protect your cells from damage. Every day, your cells sustain a kind of microscopic rust. Oxidative damage. Antioxidants slow that process. And the best sources are brightly colored vegetables and berries. The more vivid the color, the more protective power it carries. Beets, carrots, tomatoes, red bell pepper, dark leafy greens, spinach, parsley, dill. Practical step: add 1 fist-sized portion of vegetables to both lunch and dinner. Not as a side dish alongside another side dish, instead of the second scoop of potatoes or the extra piece of bread. Start this week. Monday, braised vegetables at lunch. Wednesday, salad at dinner. Friday, vegetable soup. 3 times a week to begin. After 1 month, increase it. Third, what to reduce, and I want to be clear, I'm not asking you to give up everything you enjoy. I'm a realist. Someone who has eaten a certain way for 20 years won't and shouldn't overhaul everything overnight. Drastic changes create stress. And stress, as we'll get to in a moment, is its own health threat. But there are 3 things worth gradually cutting back on. Not starting tomorrow, not starting Monday, starting now, slowly. 1. Sugar. Not the kind in an apple, the kind in your tea, 3 spoonfuls. The kind in jam, in biscuits, in sweetened yogurts, in those supposedly healthy snack bars, in juice from a carton. Do you know how much sugar is in a glass of packaged apple juice? 5 to 6 teaspoons. The same as a glass of cola. Let that land. After 50, sugar is a slow burning fuse. It raises insulin. Insulin drives inflammation, and inflammation is a biological process that accelerates the aging of blood vessels, joints, and brain tissue. This isn't fear-mongering. This is straightforward biochemistry. What to do? Start with your tea. If you use 3 spoonfuls, drop to 2. After a week, go to 1.5. After a month, 1. After 2 months, try it without sugar entirely. Your taste receptors will recalibrate. I had a patient, a retired school teacher, 63 years old, who told me she had been drinking tea with 3 spoonfuls of sugar for 40 years. She said she'd never be able to stop. 3 months later, she tried her old tea and spat it out. Too sweet. I can't believe I used to drink that. Your palate changes, but it takes weeks, not days. 2. Salt. Not eliminated, just reduced. The recommended amount is 5 to 6 grams per day, which is roughly 1 teaspoon. The average person consumes 10 to 12. The extra comes not from the salt shaker, but from bread, cheese, canned goods, deli meat, pickled vegetables. We don't even notice how much we're getting because it's hidden in everything. Excess sodium retains water in the body, raises blood pressure, and puts additional strain on the kidneys and heart. After 50, this is especially significant because the blood vessels are no longer as elastic as they were at 25. What to do? Stop salting your food before you taste it. Move the salt shaker off the table and into the cabinet. If you want flavor, use lemon juice, garlic, dill, basil, black pepper. You'll be surprised how much taste there is in food when you stop reaching for salt automatically. 3. Ultra-processed products. Sausage, hot dogs, smoked meats, store-bought prepared patties, frozen pizza, instant noodles. This is the category most worth walking away from. Not because I'm a moralist, but because these products are loaded with excess sodium, sugar, trans fats, and preservatives, while containing essentially nothing beneficial. Every year, more data accumulates showing that people who eat large amounts of ultra-processed food get sick more often and die earlier. This is not my opinion. This is the result of observational studies tracking hundreds of thousands of people across multiple countries and decades. And the swap is simpler than you think. Instead of sausage on a sandwich, roasted chicken breast sliced cold. Takes 25 minutes in the oven, lasts 3 days in the refrigerator. Instead of hot dogs, homemade patties from ground meat and onion. Instead of a ready-made mayonnaise salad, vegetables dressed with olive oil or sunflower oil. People assume cooking at home is complicated. It isn't. What's complicated is treating the consequences of 30 years of processed food. That's what's hard. One more note on water. I'm not going to recite the 8 glasses a day formula at you. That's a simplification. Fluid needs vary by body weight, by temperature, by how much you move, by what you eat. But here's what I know for certain. Most people over 50 drink far too little. Not because they don't want to, because the sense of thirst weakens with age. The brain simply stops sending the signal reliably. And the consequences stack up. Thickened blood, which raises clotting risk, reduced kidney function, dry skin, constipation, headaches, fatigue with no obvious cause. Simple fix, put a bottle of water on your kitchen counter. Every time you walk past it, take 3 or 4 sips. Don't force a full glass at once. Just small amounts, consistently throughout the day. Tea and coffee count, but plain water is your foundation. Now let's talk about movement, and I want to address both types of people I see constantly in my office. The first says, "Doctor, I'm past 50, I have to take it easy. My doctor told me no heavy activity." And so he sits for years, and then wonders why his legs won't carry him, why his back won't bend, and why climbing 1 flight of stairs leaves him gasping. The second watched a documentary about 80-year-old marathon runners and decided at 62 to run 10 kilometers immediately with bad knees and worn-out shoes. The result? Injury, disappointment, and I always knew that fitness stuff wasn't for me. The truth is in the middle, and it's far simpler than either extreme. The single most important thing I want you to take from this entire section: the best physical activity is the one you will actually do every day. Not the most intense, not the most fashionable, the one that fits your life and that you won't abandon after a week. Here's something that might surprise you. There is a concept sometimes called sitting disease. It sounds almost comical, but the physiology behind it is real. When a person sits for more than 8 hours per day, and many retirees do exactly this, television to armchair to sofa, a series of harmful processes begin. Metabolism slows, muscles weaken, blood circulates less efficiently. Blood sugar rises because muscle tissue is the body's primary consumer of glucose, and those muscles are idle. Think of a car sitting in a garage for years. The battery goes dead, the oil thickens, the tires crack. Nobody crashed it, nobody broke it, but it won't start. The body is the same. It's built for movement. Take movement away and it deteriorates. Not from overuse, but from disuse. What does the science show? Regular walking, not running, not jumping, just walking, reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease by roughly 30 to 35%. 35%. That is greater than the benefit provided by some medications. And for this, you need no gym, no trainer, no special equipment. You need legs and the decision to use them. How much? Ideally 30 to 60 minutes per day. But if you're currently doing nothing, start with 15 minutes. Seriously, 15 minutes. After breakfast, step outside, walk around the block, come back. That's it. After 1 week, go to 20 minutes. After 2 weeks, 25. Your body will ask for more on its own because it will start to feel the difference. I had a patient, a 66-year-old retired accountant, came in with chronic back pain, poor sleep, and constant fatigue. Medications gave partial relief. Physical therapy helped temporarily, but wore off. I asked her how much she walked each day. Oh, she said, to the store and back, maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes in an entire day. We started with 20 minutes every morning. Not fast, not uphill, just walking. Through the courtyard, through the park, along the sidewalk. 2 months later, the back pain was half what it had been. 4 months in, her sleep normalized. 6 months later, she came into my office not to complain, but to report. Yesterday, I walked 5 kilometers and it felt good. 5 kilometers, without medication, without surgery. 20 minutes every morning. But walking alone isn't the complete picture. There is another type of activity that is critically important after 50, and almost no one talks about it. Resistance training. Wait, don't close the tab. I'm not talking about barbells or gym memberships. I'm talking about simple exercises using your own body weight. Remember what I said about muscle loss? The only way to slow it or reverse it is to load the muscles. Not overload them, load them. There's an important difference. What does this look like practically? Squats holding the back of a chair. 10 repetitions in the morning, 10 in the evening. Push-ups against a wall if floor push-ups are too difficult. Calf raises while standing at the kitchen counter, 20 repetitions. A wall plank held for 15 seconds, gradually extending over time. These exercises take 10 minutes, 10 minutes a day. And they send your muscles one critical signal. You are needed. Don't go anywhere. The muscles stay. And with them, strength, balance, bone density, metabolic rate, and protection against falls. That last point deserves its own moment. Do you know what one of the leading causes of serious injury after the age of 65 is? Falling. A hip fracture. That's a break in the upper part of the thigh bone where it connects to the pelvis isn't just painful. It means months of bed rest, loss of mobility, depression. A significant proportion of people never fully recover. And the primary prevention is not calcium supplements. It's strong leg muscles and good balance. Exactly what those chair squats and calf raises build. One more thing movement does that people rarely think about. It protects your brain. When you move, your brain receives more blood, more oxygen, more nutrients. It also triggers the release of compounds that improve mood, natural antidepressants, produced by your own body. People who walk regularly are significantly less prone to anxiety and depression. Their memory is sharper. Their thinking is clearer. I have seen this so many times I stopped counting. A person comes in gray-faced, slow, complaining of brain fog, starts walking every day. 1 month later, different eyes, alert, alive, speech faster, smiling, and says, "Doctor, I've been finishing crossword puzzles again. I haven't done that in years." That's not mystical. That's oxygen and blood flow doing exactly what they were designed to do. Practical plan for your first 2 weeks. Week 1. Every day after breakfast, go outside and walk for 15 minutes. Pace yourself so you can still hold a conversation, but feel very slightly out of breath. Not faster, not slower. Week 2, extend to 20 minutes and add 3 exercises twice a day, morning and evening. 10 chair squats, 10 calf raises, 10 seconds of a wall plank. That's your foundation. Everything builds from there. One important condition: if you have painful joints, especially knees or hips, any history of heart disease, shortness of breath even with minor effort, or if you simply haven't had a checkup in a long time, see your doctor first. Get an electrocardiogram, a recording of your heart's electrical activity. Check your blood pressure. Then start. Safety before enthusiasm. Nothing I say in this video replaces a physician who knows you personally. Now let's get to a topic that most people treat as a luxury concern: sleep and stress. Didn't sleep well, so what? Got a little anxious. I'm not fragile. I hear this constantly, especially from men. And then those same men sit across from me with a blood pressure reading of 170/105, asking where it came from. I don't even get stressed, they say. Their body tells a different story. Let me explain what is happening inside when you chronically undersleep or live under chronic stress. When you're under stress, your body releases cortisol, your primary stress hormone. In evolutionary terms, cortisol exists to prepare you for physical danger. Run from the predator. Fight for your life. The problem is that your brain cannot distinguish between a real physical threat and an argument with a neighbor, anxiety about your grandchildren, or an evening watching the news. To the brain, all of these are threats, and it runs the same program every time: cortisol release. Short-term, cortisol is useful. It mobilizes you, sharpens focus, raises heart rate. But when it stays high for months and years, it begins to destroy. It damages blood vessel walls. It suppresses the immune system. It erodes the stomach lining. It disrupts memory, and it wrecks sleep. Imagine pressing the accelerator in your car and never releasing it. The engine screams, the needle is in the red. 1 minute is fine. 10 minutes and the engine overheats. An hour and it burns out. Chronic stress is that pressed accelerator, held down for years. And then people wonder why the engine is misfiring. What to do? I'm not going to tell you to just relax. That's the most useless advice in medicine. You can't relax on command any more than you can fall asleep on command. The harder you try, the worse it gets. But there are concrete techniques that genuinely work. First, controlled breathing. This sounds unremarkable, but here is the fact. When you make a slow, deliberate exhale that is longer than your inhale, you physically, biologically lower cortisol. The parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system responsible for rest and recovery, becomes activated. The technique: inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 2 counts. Exhale through your mouth for 6 to 8 counts. Slowly. 5 cycles takes roughly 3 minutes. Do this in the morning, again at night, and anytime you feel yourself beginning to boil over. Within 2 weeks, you will notice a difference. Within a month, it becomes automatic. A patient of mine, a 61-year-old former factory foreman, came in with serious insomnia. 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. Sleeping pills helped him fall asleep, but left him foggy every morning. I taught him this breathing technique. He was openly skeptical. "Doctor, I'm a serious person. What is this breathing business?" 3 weeks later, he called. "I don't know how, but I'm falling asleep in 15 minutes. Before, it took 2 hours. A serious man transformed by breathing. Second, a consistent daily schedule. After 50, a regular schedule isn't a lifestyle preference. It's a biological necessity. Your body functions like a precision clock. When you go to sleep and wake up at the same time every day, within 30 minutes or so, your brain synchronizes all its internal processes around that rhythm. Melatonin, the hormone that initiates sleep, is released on schedule. Cortisol drops in the evening as it's supposed to. Digestion functions in rhythm. But when you go to bed at 11 one night, midnight the next, then stay up until 3 in the morning on weekends, your brain loses its orientation. It doesn't know when to sleep, when to be alert, when to run its repair cycles. Practical advice: choose a specific bedtime and stick to it every day, including weekends. Yes, including weekends. The first 2 weeks are difficult. After that, your body adapts, sleep deepens, and mornings become easier. Third, screens before bed. A phone or tablet in the final hour before sleep is poison for sleep quality. Not because of the content, but because of the blue light emitted by the screen. Your brain interprets that wavelength of light as daylight, and when it sees daylight, it suppresses melatonin production and keeps you in waking mode. Rule: no screens in the hour before sleep. No phone, no tablet, no television. Instead, read a book, have a real conversation with someone you love, try the breathing technique, take a short walk. Many people watch television to wind down, but television doesn't quiet the brain. It overstimulates it, especially the news, especially the kind with people shouting. Fourth, and I'd argue this is the most important point in this entire section, social connection. You heard me correctly. Human relationship is medicine. There is a study out of Harvard, the longest running study of human development ever conducted, following people for over 75 years. The main conclusion had nothing to do with diet, exercise, or vitamins. The main conclusion was this: people who have warm, close relationships live longer and get sick less often. Loneliness doesn't just feel bad, it kills. Chronic loneliness is, by measure of health impact, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Not a metaphor, a measured, documented biological effect. I see this in my practice every single week. A retired person whose children have moved away, whose spouse has died or left, who spends entire days alone. The television is on all day. And this person has everything: high blood pressure, elevated blood sugar, insomnia, chest tightness, dizziness. Sometimes the lab work is nearly normal, but they feel terrible because they are desperately lonely. And the body expresses loneliness the only way it knows how: through symptoms. What to do? Don't wait for someone to come to you. Pick up the phone first. Go to a neighbor for tea. Sign up for a class, drawing, Nordic walking, a choir, a reading group. Go to the library. Walk a neighbor's dog. This sounds insignificant. It is not insignificant. It is years of life. I had a 71-year-old widower in my care. Came in with the complaint, everything hurts, nothing helps. Labs were tolerable, nothing catastrophic. I asked, is there someone in your life you can really talk to? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, no, not for 2 years. I recommended a community wellness group at the clinic. Retirees, morning stretching, then tea and conversation. He went. 3 months later, he came back not to complain, but to boast. Same medications, same diet. The only thing that changed, he stopped being alone. Your practical step for today. Call someone you haven't spoken to in a long time. A friend, a sibling, a former colleague, an old neighbor. Just to say hello. 5 minutes. That is healthcare. More proven than most supplements on the market. Now there is something I want to ask you because age genuinely matters for everything we've covered today. The way the body handles blood sugar shifts after 40. Muscle loss accelerates after 50. The risk of cardiovascular events climbs significantly in the decade following 60. The protective benefits of exercise vary depending on where you are in that curve. How old are you? Drop your age in the comments. I genuinely like to see where most of our viewers are in this picture, and it will help me make future videos more targeted to the people who need them most. Let's talk about testing and medical relationships. Why get tested when you feel fine? Because many serious conditions, type 2 diabetes, elevated cholesterol, certain cancers, osteoporosis, produce no symptoms in their early stages. None. You can walk around with a fasting blood sugar of 7 and feel completely well. Blood pressure at 150 with no symptoms at all. Cholesterol through the roof and not a single complaint. And then a heart attack, a stroke, kidney failure, seemingly out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere. Years of quiet, invisible progression that could have been caught with a simple annual panel of tests. Here's what I recommend after 50. A complete blood count shows anemia, signs of inflammation, problems with blood cell production. Fasting blood glucose and glycated hemoglobin. A 2-part picture of blood sugar, where you are today and your average over the past 3 months. A full lipid panel, not just total cholesterol, but the complete breakdown. Total cholesterol, LDL, the harmful fraction, HDL, the protective fraction, and triglycerides, which are a type of fat in the blood. Total cholesterol alone can look fine, while the ratio underneath is dangerous. Creatinine and urea, kidney markers. The kidneys work quietly and without complaint until they've lost 2/3 of their function. Better to know early. Liver enzymes, ALT and AST. The liver is another silent organ. It doesn't signal distress until things are already serious. Vitamin D. A large proportion of people over 50 are deficient, especially in regions where sun exposure is limited for half the year. Low vitamin D means weaker bones, compromised immunity, persistently low mood, and increased fracture risk. TSH. Thyroid stimulating hormone, which indicates how the thyroid gland is performing. It tends to slow down with age, particularly in women. And if you've never had a colonoscopy, a visual examination of the large intestine using a flexible camera, now is the time. I know its reputation. I know it's uncomfortable. But colorectal cancer is one of the most common cancers, and when caught early, the survival rate approaches 100%. At a late stage, the story is entirely different. One colonoscopy every 5 to 10 years is your insurance policy. For women, a mammogram every 2 years and a gynecological exam including cervical screening. For men, discuss PSA testing, a blood marker for prostate health, with your doctor after 50. It isn't right for everyone, but it's worth the conversation. This is not a long list. It is not an expensive list. Most of these tests are available through standard coverage. But this list can save your life, or catch a problem at the stage when it's easy to fix rather than impossible to reverse. Now about how to use your doctor effectively. Come prepared. Write down your concerns beforehand, on paper. This sounds old-fashioned. It works, because in the office, you'll be anxious, you'll forget half of what you came to say, and you'll walk out and remember in the elevator, I forgot to ask about my legs, and about my sleep, and about that spot on my arm. Write specific questions. Does my sugar need to be checked? Could this medication be causing this side effect? Is there an alternative? Your doctor is not a mind reader, but a direct question will get a direct answer. And don't be afraid to ask why. If a test is ordered, ask why. If a medication is prescribed, ask what it does, why you need it, and what the common side effects are. You have every right to know. It is your body, your health, and your money. A good doctor welcomes questions because engaged patients have better outcomes. Practical suggestion. Get a plain notebook and use it as a medical journal. First page, list of any chronic diagnoses. Second page, list of current medications with doses. Third page, test results in chronological order. Date, what was tested, what the result was. Update after every appointment. Within a year, you will have a complete longitudinal picture of your own health. You will see trends, and any physician you show it to will be grateful. We've covered a great deal today. Genetics, food, movement, sleep, stress, connection, and testing. But before I close, I want to tell you about a patient whose story holds everything we've discussed in one place. A year and a half ago, a 58-year-old man came to see me, an engineer who'd spent his whole working life in a factory. His wife had essentially dragged him through the door. Here's what his numbers looked like when he sat down across from me. Blood pressure 178/105. Fasting blood sugar 7.4. Total cholesterol 7.2. Weight 109 kilograms at a height of 176 centimeters. Shortness of breath climbing to the 3rd floor. Snoring so loud his wife had moved to the other bedroom. Knee pain. Acid reflux every evening. He sat down and said, "How long do I have?" No irony, he genuinely believed he was running out of time. I told him, "You have as long as you choose, because everything you're carrying right now is not disease, it's consequence. Consequence of how the last 20 years went. And most of it can be reversed." He didn't believe me, but his wife was persistent. We started slowly, no revolutions. Month 1, removed sausage and hot dogs from the house. Replaced them with chicken and fish twice a week. Cut his tea from 2 spoonfuls of sugar to 1. Replaced his evening bread and butter with cottage cheese and herbs. Month 2, 15 minutes of walking every morning. The first week he was winded. The second week he wasn't. By the end of the month he was doing 25 minutes. Month 3, packaged juices went out. Water came in. He was surprised to discover he could actually drink plain water. Month 4, 5 minutes of chair squats and calf raises, morning and evening. Month 5, his wife began roasting vegetables with garlic and fresh herbs. This man, a lifelong committed carnivore, said, "You know what? I actually like this." Month 6, follow-up labs. Weight, 98 kilograms, down 11. Blood pressure, 132/84. Blood sugar, 5.1. Total cholesterol, 5.8. The acid reflux was gone. The knee pain had reduced. The snoring was markedly better. His wife had returned to the bedroom. He sat in my office reading those numbers, and he said, "I didn't think this was possible. I thought it was the end. But this turns out to be the beginning." That is exactly why this channel exists. The central idea I want you to carry out of here is this: longevity is not one heroic act. It is thousands of small decisions made every day. A plate with vegetables instead of a sausage sandwich. That's a decision. 20 minutes on foot instead of another hour in front of the television. That's a decision. A glass of water instead of a glass of juice. A decision. Calling a friend instead of spending the evening alone. A decision. A slow breath instead of an outburst. A decision. Each one is small. Each one seems trivial in the moment. Together, they are years. Not just years of life, but years of good life. Life where you can play with your grandchildren, walk in a park, travel, taste your food, remember names, and wake up looking forward to the day. That is not a fantasy. I have watched it happen. You can do the same. Here is your action plan. Genetics. It shapes 20 to 30% of your outcome. The rest is yours. Write down your family health history and bring it to your doctor. Food. Protein at every meal. More vegetables, less sugar and salt, less processed food. 1 change per week. Movement. 30 minutes of walking plus 10 minutes of simple resistance exercises every day. Start with 15 minutes if you're starting from 0. Sleep and stress. Consistent bedtime, breathing practice, no screens before bed, and make a real human connection every single day. Testing, a basic annual panel after 50, 1 colonoscopy, and the age-appropriate screenings for your sex. Medical care. Come prepared, write down your questions, ask why, and keep a health journal. Pick one thing from that list and do it this week. Write it in the comments. Because when you write down an intention, your brain takes it more seriously. That's not mysticism, that's behavioral psychology. And someone else reading your comment might find exactly the push they needed. If this video was useful to you, subscribe to Dr. Waterling and leave a like. Your doctor won't bring this up at your next visit. Keeping you healthy isn't profitable. Helping this channel reach 1,000 subscribers is how we keep this conversation going. Nobody in a white coat at a clinic is going to walk you through this. It's not in the business model. Subscribe, hit like, and help this reach the people who need it.